Hey guys, Legendary Grimlock here, and today we have ourselves a bit of a long one today. Could the Insomniac villains survive Sabrewulf? So we're going to be treating them like the ARKHAM villains, except it's a little bit different. You see, they don't have a confined space like Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. So we're going to have to put this one in the story. We're going to have to talk about it from both a story perspective and a survival perspective here. So we're going to have to put Sabrewulf in the story of Spider-Man and find out where it best fits, also tweaking it a little bit, and then we'll also get into the results of each story here. Keep in mind, I won't be mentioning everyone here because, again, it's a whole lot of villains, and this video is probably longer than it is now. So without further ado, let's talk about the scaling. Now, Sabrewulf is easily a star tier to universal levels of attack potency. This is because, again, he scales to Gargos and Gargos' mimics, or he would actually scale above Gargos' mimics, as a matter of fact, as they're actually created with Gargos' power, with his power being comparable to that of stars. And keep in mind, beings that can fight Gargos on the astral plane, which actually gets into like the universal to high multiversal levels of pretty much scaling and stuff for Killer Instinct. Yeah, so it gets pretty ridiculous here. So we're going to use the lower ends of Killer Instinct, kind of lowballing Sabrewulf a little bit here. And this would actually be around the city to island here, as he would actually scale to Gargos' meteors, which are 30 times greater than the nuclear bombs that actually hit Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, yeah, he's still a pretty powerful character regardless. And keep in mind as well, he's able to keep up with characters like Glacius, even being able to beat them, with characters like Glacius actually being able to move, react, and attack within nanoseconds. And there are plenty of characters that scale to this, but Sabrewulf mainly because, well, he's Glacius's rival. Kind of funny how a supernatural creature and an extraterrestrial creature have some beef, right? But Sabrewulf does have his plethora of powers and abilities. For starters, he can actually communicate with bats and use them to like locate people. He also can unleash powerful surges of electricity. He's able to extend his claws as well. And by the way, when he can summon bats, they actually come in like giant forms as well, which is absolutely ridiculous. Enough to rip apart and eat the other characters. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. But as for the story-wise, I would definitely say he's a former friend of Pete, a love interest of Yuri, still in a relationship with her, and Miles is kind of just there. So, yeah, it is what it is here. So, without further ado, where would I say he shows up? I would actually say he shows up when Spider-Man, well, sorry, not show up. I would actually say Spider-Man gets jumped by the Sinister Six, right? However, he's left unconscious. Not dead, but he's unconscious here. Now, why would I say this is important here? Because it changes the story drastically. Imagine him being unconscious for a large portion of time here. And, you know, Dr. Langley or Dr. Michaels or whatever, you know, diagnosed that, yeah, he's not waking up anytime soon here. So Yuri, seeing that Rhino's rampaging, Electro has the police station hostage and stuff, and you know, Sable isn't really helping too much here, this would make Yuri you know, have to make a call here. And this is where I would also have her call Conrad, who in this story would actually be hunting down Hammerhead's operations and actually disabling Project Olympus, or at least a small portion of it, so that Hammer really can't get too much of the supplies for it, meaning that Project Olympus is a little incomplete, if not a whole lot incomplete. So with that being said here, he would finish his operation and would definitely be heading towards New York, but he wouldn't be there till the very next day. Now, this changes a lot drastically here. For starters, Rhino's rampage here. This does mean that any of the guards' barricades or any of the guards in Rhino's way would possibly get trampled and killed here, as would some of the people that Electro and the demons are holding hostage. This means that Yuri would probably have to find a way to get Sable and even Silver Sable or Sabelina herself involved here. Now, again, I do think it would take probably a good minute here, and Sable would definitely get involved. I could definitely see it. Because I don't think a Mayor Osborn or, Norman Osborn will want his campaign to be ruined by a couple villains. So Sable would definitely interfere and would definitely be able to help out the cops to I would probably say a little degree here. I mean, they're not really a match for most of the superpower beings here, but in combination with the cops, Silver Sable herself here, I could definitely see them making New York at least a tad bit safer. However, there are going to be some changes here, and I do think a lot of people would possibly die during this time here. Now, let's go over to when Conrad arrives via the subway. I do think Yuri would definitely keep him being in New York kind of on the down mode, if you will, here. The two would definitely reunite, they will reconnect, ask how they're each other doing. But once that happens, I do see Yuri giving Conrad information about what's going on, why Spider-Man isn't really helping at the moment, why, he's unconscious and stuff. And I could definitely see Conrad just going about his business here. And would definitely be targeting the prisoner camps here. I do see the prisoner camps as one of the first few things to fall when he's there. And I definitely think it would be a bloody mess with probably a few inmates surviving. Keyword being surviving. I do think that he probably wouldn't kill anybody. Well, sorry, everybody, I should say. But definitely some of these guys are going 6 feet under. Yeah, he's definitely do it. Now you might say, oh, well, why wouldn't Conrad fully kill anybody? I mean, isn't he like a sadistic, out of control werewolf? No, you have to remember he is a former monster hunter that saw the error of his ways, because now that he was a monster, he got to kind of put himself in those shoes here. And again, Sabrewulf is still conscious enough, or at least sentient, to the point where he can still not only have rational conversations, but he is still capable, all right? He is still capable of feeling compassion and knowing mercy, as he's one of the few people to spare Hisako when Hisako was out for her revenge. And again, he also knows that Hisako is a tragic character because they were able to bond in like the Killer Instinct, I think, novelization, I guess, or what it was. Or maybe like the official bio or story bios for each character. But yeah, I definitely see Sabrewulf sparing a few here. He's definitely going after the demons, as I do think he will want a little bit more information on Martin Lee here. Or he might head to Feast under his human persona and would get any information he can on Martin Lee. Now, I do think if he goes after the demons will report this to, Mr. Negative, Martin here. And, it's very simple. He tells the rest of the Sinister Six to look out. And I do think Otto wouldn't really mind this, as he wants to stay on schedule, as already he would probably have, Devil's Breath. And he would have already had the first couple phases of his plan complete here. Now, the way I see Sabrewulf taking out the Sinister Six is pretty early on in the story, with him taking out Rhino and Scorpion during the supply run mission here. I actually see Miles being kind of like caught up in it. And I would actually have Miles get caught here so that Sabrewulf can kind of just go in and save him on time here. Because I do think the first two he would go after are Rhino and Scorpion, considering the fact that Rhino is one of the strongest, if not the strongest member of the Sinister Six, and Scorpion's poisoning the water supply is an automatic no for everybody. Now, Sabrewulf would definitely use his electrical powers here, or his lightning powers here, to kind of just disable Rhino. And do I think he would kill him? Well, it's definitely up there for interpretation, because Rhino is a tragic character in the Insomniac verse, having been trapped in that suit, and he just wants to get free, so he just does these villainous things and stuff like that. But then again, he is putting like people in jeopardy and stuff like that, and is willing to kill innocent people, so it's very 50-50. But we'll say Sabrewulf just maims him and just leaves him there for the cops to come and get him. However, Scorpion, yeah, he's dying. Oh yeah, Scorpion's getting ripped to shreds here. Keep in mind here, Scorpion is a sadistic murderer. Like, he legit poisons people, causes them to have hallucinations, and then kills them regardless. Like, his first thing is instantly murder. All right. So again, he's dying. He's dying. And the way I see it happening is that once he sees Rhino is maimed, and I actually think Sabrewulf will use Rhino's beaten up and probably, obviously a brutally beaten body to set up a trap for Scorpion. Scorpion will come looking for him after getting the information from the Sable security, to which Sable will spring his trap and definitely grab Gargan by his tail, ripping it off. And I can actually see him ripping Scorpion to pieces and doing it slowly and painfully for him. Because again, Scorpion likes to torture people. Scorpion likes to make people death slow. And I could actually see him just doing that, leaving Scorpion there for dead, and helping Miles get the rest of the medical supplies towards Feast, because people would definitely need it. Now, this is where I would also have Spider-Man wake up, and he will find Scorpion's torn, destroyed, bitten up, possibly halfway eaten as well, body. So, he would know something's wrong here, as no other character would do this. He would also find that Rhino has been hospitalized, and I do think Pete would probably, more than likely would be cautious of this, but would go on to, go around defeating the villain stuff. And I actually think this is where Yuri gives him the information to meet Sabrewulf. Because again, Conrad would actually be going after prison camps, any of the other demon operations. And I do think that this is where the two would reunite and kind of see each other as old friends. At least for the most part here. To which I think Pete would actually be a little bit scared here, because again, he and Conrad are childhood friends. And I do think Conrad, if they did have a childhood, Conrad would be kind of like the tough guy between him, Harry, and Pete, but wouldn't have like the, I guess you could say, killing intent that he has here. But I do think the two would probably get something to eat here and would go on to fight against Vulture and Electro here. Now, this is where I actually see the two likely having some conflict. Because again, Pete can get there. Let's just say Pete gets there first. I'm not going to say Pete is faster than, Sabrewulf here, because that's just blatantly a lie. But let's say Pete gets there first and, he's fighting Vulture and Electro here. Now, this is where I definitely see Conrad interfering and going after Vulture. Lightly shooting a lightning blast or throwing a rock to just, I guess you could say, upset Vulture here. And once Vulture actually does one of his booster attacks, I definitely see Conrad catching him, like by his actual wings here. And using his claws, he would probably sink them right into his wings. And it's one or two things that happen. I don't think he would kill Vulture, because I think, werewolves can smell just about anything on you. And he would definitely see that Vulture is a cancer patient. So, yeah. But he's still getting grounded one way or another. Probably a seismic toss just like this. I mean, it would be kind of cool to see a werewolf kind of do that. But, he would do that, and Vulture would possibly be unconscious and badly injured. But Conrad would still go to pull off his wings and just, leave him there. And this is where he and Pete would definitely get into an argument about it, to where I think Conrad would definitely go on to possibly just slam Pete and grab him by the throat here and just tell him that they're both on the same side. The fact that you don't like killing is not his problem. But again, he's not harming innocent people. He's making sure that the villains that you can't kill are going to remain, some of them can remain permanently down, and others who are worthy of redemption, can be redeemed. Now, I do think after this here, Pete would definitely go confide in MJ after saving her, Miles, and Aunt May, just like in the original, original story and stuff. And I think MJ would say that it is okay to kill some villains, but again, Pete does what he does best, and that's what he does. He saves lives here. Now, Martin Lee, right? Mr. Negative, one of my favorite people in the Insomniac verse, because it's like, okay, I understand what he's doing. He's wrong for it, because again, he's putting innocent people in danger, but you can understand where he's coming from. He wants the man who actually killed his parents to pay rightfully. And I actually think that Sabrewulf would leave this to Spider-Man. However, Doc Ock is a whole different story. Sabrewulf would likely pounce on him, like right when Pete is getting manhandled, and probably just dump all the electrical power that he really just wants to, and just fry Otto's mind completely, likely leaving him conscious or leaving him as a vegetable. It's very possible he does kill him here, and we'll actually go with that interpretation for story's sake here. But again, he does kill Doc Ock or leave him as a vegetable, which is a living death, if you will. Now, this has some significant changes on the story as well. For starters, Pete's still fine. You know, he's not hospitalized. He doesn't have any significant injuries. Probably just those 3 broken ribs, but he still should be fine here. Now, the city that never sleeps is very different. The Hammerhead actually gets dealt with pretty early in the story. Right when Pete goes to, help out Yuri and the rest of the cops obtain the Hammerhead here, Hammerhead actually gets got right here. Because again, Pete and Sabrewulf would show up. Remember, I think Yuri would possibly call Conrad first over Spider-Man. Because again, Hammerhead and, he's been after Hammerhead for quite a while here. However, once this happens and once Hammerhead does have Yuri and the others hostage, Sabrewulf is likely to act far faster than Spider-Man and likely would have Hammerhead bite his throat, bite his head clean off, and would kill him. And this would actually somewhat stop Hammerhead's operations here. This would leave another power vacuum within the city, likely having Hammerhead's own troops turn over to Kingpin, which is something that's actually a bit more beneficial because, again, Kingpin is a crime boss, but he's more of a controlled crime boss rather than Hammerhead. So this means that Conrad inadvertently saved a lot more lives than, Spider-Man has. So again, this would actually change a significant part of the story and likely have the rest of it be about Conrad's methods than, him and Pete's relationship with each other actually dissolving from a friendship to kind of like that frenemy type of thing here. And I do think Pete would definitely build the anti-Ock suit, but it would actually be made for Sabrewulf. Keep in mind that Pete doesn't know Sabrewulf's actual strength level, so he's estimating how it would go here. I do see Pete trying to tell Conrad that there's an operation going down at a warehouse, and Pete would definitely try to set him up here. Now you might ask, why would he do that? But again, I do think Pete wants to kind of send the message that Conrad can't just go around killing villains. Because again, some of them are redeemable, if not all of them are. And I actually do see the two fighting here with Pete getting off a successful ambush. However, when he actually starts talking, and this would honestly, in my opinion, I do think this would piss off Conrad to a large degree here because Pete doesn't get it. He doesn't have, in all honesty, Pete's kind of like Batman in a lot of ways here. They both don't believe in killing, but they will beat the mess out of you and put you in a hospital. But again, these villains keep breaking out and they keep killing people more than more. But I think when Conrad has enough, he's definitely hitting Pete with a full force electrical attack. Probably a physical punch or something like that. Thunder punch, boom. So when that happens, I kind of just see the rest of the fight being an absolute manhandle. Pete gets pretty much outclassed in strength, speed, durability, and again in the hacks department because Conrad's not playing around with him anymore. He's beating Pete to get a point across that he's not a pushover. He's not him. He's not someone that's going to just let people die. If someone needs to die, they need to die. It's just how it is here. And again, this will come into a morality compass for both characters here, with a lot of things changing as a whole here. New York City is actually a lot safer in this timeline. Like, it's vastly different. Would I say that people would definitely look at Spider-Man differently? Yes. Because again, I do think Sabrewulf would be kind of renowned as a hero rather than someone who's like this grisly murdering beast. It may be even J. Jonah Jameson supporting him rather than Spider-Man. However, Pete himself would definitely go on to train Miles, and I definitely see Yuri quitting her job and becoming Wraith. I can see that. Because again, she always knew the justice system didn't, benefit the good guys. It really didn't. It always benefited the bad guys. And I can definitely see this after she murders the dude who was nothing more than a complete criminal. And again, I can actually see her becoming Wraith probably a bit earlier with Conrad's help and with probably a bit more training to control her killing intent so that she's not killing everyone. All right? So again, it is what it is here. Now, the Sandman boss fight, I would actually leave the same, having Pete and Miles simply overcome it, because I would have Wraith and Sabrewulf here on the very other side of the city here, where obviously Sandman is just not there. And then we get to the Kraven stuff here. Now, the Kraven stuff actually changes significantly here because he doesn't have, I guess you could say he doesn't have Scorpion in this timeline. Scorpion is dead. And again, Rhino would have been dead as well if we actually allowed that to happen. However, he does still have Electro, Vulture, and Shocker. And speaking of which, Shocker wouldn't be killed by Sabrewulf here. He's a petty thief. That's all he really is in the Insomniac verse. He's really just a thief. A dangerous thief, yes. But again, Shocker's not someone to go out and harm innocent people and stuff like that. No. Sure, he would have information on the demons, and I do think Sabrewulf would interrogate him, but he wouldn't kill him. I don't even think he would maim him. At least not too bad. Maybe break an arm or two. But back to the Kraven situation, the Hunters would definitely be an issue here, but I definitely see Conrad, Pete, and Miles all on that boat here. With, again, obviously Spider-Man and Sabrewulf here wouldn't be the best of friends, but they would have a common goal to make sure Rhino, again, we're going to go with the interpretation that Rhino's alive in this timeline, and Mr. Negative are transported to their locations here. And I actually think with Sabrewulf there and with him possibly killing a few of the Hunters, it would definitely get Kraven's attention a lot more and see him as a much more worthy adversary. Now, Sabrewulf would likely go on to kill Cletus Cassidy, as I do think Spider-Man would interfere. And we'll also go with the interpretation that Pete has the black suit at this time. So this would mean that Pete would possibly be a bit more aggressive towards Conrad because of the black suit's influence. Meaning that Pete may inadvertently hurt Wraith, causing Conrad to go into a bloodlusted state. And both of them fighting, bloodlusted against bloodlusted. I could say it could go either way here. And I would probably not, because Conrad still has his electrical powers here. So, yeah, I would probably say Sabrewulf definitely takes it with moderate difficulty here. Now, this is where we get into the carnival stuff. And this is probably where I would have the Kraven stuff come to an end here. And keep in mind, wasn't Miles also there at the carnival? So, definitely find it kind of weird that, it is what it is here. But I definitely see the group bumping into Conrad and Yuri as they're having pretty much a grand time, celebrating the fact that they've killed or they gotten rid of Cletus Cassidy before his operations could really just go off hitch. Meaning, again, the Carnage DLC wouldn't happen. So, yeah, that changes significantly. And I do think that with Miles there, the Hunters that do show up are dealt with a little bit better. However, I also see Kraven being there at this time. So this means Kraven versus Sabrewulf is already set in stone here. And I actually kind of see this happening when the Hunters try to go after Yuri. And Kraven intervenes here. And more than likely will capture Yuri for himself here in order to draw out Conrad's inner beast here. To which, yeah, going full-blown werewolf, and it's very likely Kraven does hurt Yuri, trying to get Conrad into that bloodlusted, feral, animalistic state here. And if that happens, Kraven gets what he wants. He gets a honorable death. Not only an honorable death, but a worthy death. Something worthy of a hunter here. And I can actually see Conrad going full speed, blitzing through the entire hunters before they can even react. Possibly even drawing their weapons here. And he would basically just tear into Kraven at that time. To which I think the expression would probably go from satisfactory to fear, but then satisfactory again. Because again, you're fighting someone that is 10, if not hundreds of millions of times faster and a lot more ferocious than a Black Suit Pete and Venom, in all honesty. And I actually see Kraven being killed right then and there here. Yes, he is going to press Sabrewulf for a little bit until Sabrewulf again, realizes that, oh, wait, you can't even touch me here. And I actually see this being like a horrifying sight for like MJ, Harry, Pete and stuff like that. And it just gets worse and worse and worse here. Because again, I do think that there are a lot of ways this story plays out here. Now again, I know I kind of twisted the story a little bit because the carnival stuff does happen before the black suit here. But let's say, I am going on if Pete does have the black suit when he meets Wraith here. So let's just go with the linear story for this part here. It's a Kraven does show up instead Spider-Man, at the Tombstone hideout and stuff like that. That means Kraven actually gets dealt with pretty early in the story, and a lot of things could change here. For starters, the Venom stuff, right? The Venom stuff probably more than likely doesn't happen. You see, the reason why I think the Venom stuff happened is because Venom fed off of Pete's psyche and fed off his more darker thoughts here. You might say, oh, well, it was influencing. No, it was basically, I wouldn't say it was influencing those emotions. It was basically coddling them, stroking them, kind of like supporting those emotions. Like, yeah, I can help you, fulfill these thoughts. I can help you fulfill these things here. Now, again, if Pete does get the suit here, then it just turns into a whole nother Sabrewulf versus, Spider-Man situation like I explained earlier. And he would pretty much electrify Pete at this point here. Now, honestly, if we say Harry keeps the suit and keeps being Agent Venom, that means there are just 3 Spider-Men in the city. With obviously Agent Venom here. And then the whole Symbiote City stuff never happens. Because again, Harry already had a better control and was already in perfect symbiosis with the symbiote. I do think that the reason why Venom wanted Spider-Man is because it just felt like, felt like it should be bonded with him for a little bit. Or it kind of just wanted to explore, a host that it might have a good compatibility with. It felt like it could have a compatibility with Spider-Man here. However, after discovering that, it went back to Harry pretty easily and pretty much just merged with him entirely. So, that pretty much covers the Insomniac verse here. Now, you might ask me, well, what about this, that, and the third characters? Okay, so characters like Silver Sable, Black Cat, and Taskmaster would really be no match for Sabrewulf here. He's too fast, too strong, and he would pretty much gut them or pretty much just maul them to the point where they can just be arrested. Or again, with Silver Sable, he would hold back and then help her with the Hammerhead operation. With Cyborg Hammerhead, again, nothing too much here. He pretty much just one-shots, if not just straight up aims for the head entirely, sinks his fangs in, and pulls out his head once again. Now, as for the Spider-Man 2 or the Spider-Man Miles Morales cast, Finn gets killed because again she kept putting innocent lives in danger and was going to really just disregard everyone's life at that point in the story. Sure, she redeemed herself, so there is a possibility she will live. Prowler, Petty Thief would live. possibly just get knocked out in one shot. Rhino? Oh yeah, Rhino's dying at that point. Yeah, you tore through multiple city blocks and put a lot of people in danger. So yeah, you're dying there, buddy. Now, as for, let's see, the head of Roxanne, couldn't really care for his name here. Yeah, he's dying. Yeah, probably not a public execution or anything, but definitely, you know Sabrewulf was there. That's the best way I could put it here. Now, as for Spider-Man 2, the only one missing here is Lizard, in all honesty. And, you know, I think he'd live. Yeah, Lizard was pretty much forced into that situation, and Conrad could honestly tell that he doesn't want to be the Lizard. As a matter of fact, Lizard was trying to get away from people and pretty much just hide himself in the sewers. So it's very possible Conrad either does one or two things. He helps Lizard control the state so that he can have a little beast buddy to help him run around here, or he just tranquilizes and neutralizes Lizard so that they could get the cure. So, in all honesty, do I think Sabrewulf clears the Insomniac verse at his lower ends? Yes. Does he clear at his higher ends? Oh, sweet lord, yes he does. But hey, that's going to be all for today, you guys. And in all honesty, the Insomniac cast does a whole lot better than the Arkham cast because a lot of them are just simply sympathetic villains rather than the ones in the Arkhamverse who are sadistic monsters. So, that's going to be all today, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I hope y'all have a blessed day. Peace.